Hey, hunting family. Today we're joined by a true outdoorsman and a great friend of the show, Nate the Woodsman. Nate is part of The Woodsman, a story of the Buckventures pro staff airing exclusively on Sportsman channel, My Outdoor TV, and YouTube, founded in 2018 on the principle of Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. The Woodsman is a brotherhood of over 300 hunters and outdoorsmen spanning across 30 states, united by their love for the Lord and the outdoors. Living in upstate New York, Nate has honed his skills in hunting, bushcraft, and self-reliance, embracing the wild with a passion for conservation and faith-driven adventure. Whether it's tracking game, crafting tools, or sharing his knowledge, he brings a wealth of experience to the table. So grab your gear, settle in. It's time to talk wilderness, tracking, and tackle with Nate the Woodsman. Hey, hunting family, welcome back to Tracks and Tackle. We've got a good one for you tonight. We've got a special guest, Nate Seifrid, otherwise known as Nate the Woodsman, is going to be coming on the show. And we're just going to be talking about hunting in upstate New York and living the woodsman life. So without further ado, let me bring on my co-host, Chris Bookman from 3B Outdoors. How you doing, Chris?
What's up, dude? How are you, Ron?
Oh man, living the dream.
That's
you
right.
know it. Living the dream. What's happening with you?
I sat outside in the sun for a little while today. That was nice.
Yeah, we did get a little sunlight. It's actually a good reprieve.
It's warm down where we are. We're gonna bug our guest about how cold it is where he's at. So,
well, let's bring Nate onto the show, and I'll turn it over to you, Chris.
All right. What's up, Nate? How are you, buddy?
Doing good. Doing good.
Thanks for coming on. I got my buddy. We've known each other for what, 5 years now? 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah, just about.
We're like old school pen pals. So, yeah, I got my buddy Nate here. He's part of the Woodsman thing and Buckventures. Before we get into the Buckventures stuff, Nate, give us your little bio about hunting and your hunting heritage and just what got you hooked on being outside, dude.
So I got really blessed. I was kind of born into a really good family. My grandfather loved hunting. I had a really great opportunity to be able to grow up in close proximity to my grandparents. I remember we were fishing one time, and a guy was on a jet ski. He was trying to be the first jet skier around the world, was his goal. And he was doing a test run, and it died in the middle of the canal. So my grandfather, just being a good guy, went over, hooked up to it, and started dragging him down the canal. The guy's like, "Oh, your father's, really helping me out." I'm like, "That's my grandfather." He couldn't believe that I was actually spending time with my grandfather.
Right on.
So we got to spend a lot of time together. He was actually the best man at my wedding, so he was. We were pretty close, but he was always in the woods. Loved anytime he wasn't working or doing something at church, he was in the woods. He just loved it. Loved to turkey hunt. Taught me everything I know about turkey hunting. Liked to deer hunt. Deer hunting was fun, but he absolutely lived to turkey hunt. So that was his bread and butter on that one. And I can remember just about being old enough to walk, and I was out there trying to follow him through the snow. He had snowshoes. I didn't. It's not nearly as fair when someone in front of you has snowshoes and you don't. But that's pretty much how it started. I mean, from fishing to hunting and just following him, doing that stuff until I was old enough to do it. And my father loved being in the woods. He didn't hunt, but he loved the hiking aspect, hey, let's go climb, some of the 49 peaks up in the Adirondacks, and let's do all that kind of stuff. Well, my grandfather didn't. So I really had the best of both worlds growing up. So it was a really good childhood, I can tell you.
We talk all the time about, the importance of having a mentor like that, whether it's your grandfather, your father, just, somebody that takes you under their wing and shows you the way, because that's a lot of guys that don't get into the outdoors. Like that's what's lacking. It's just a hunting buddy to some degree that to mentor them, and get them into it. Because once you've tasted it, it's like, once you've had steak, who goes back to hot dogs after eating steak, right?
Exactly. And the funny thing was, I didn't even I didn't realize that everybody else didn't grow up like that until I was much older. You
Yeah.
know, and I'm looking back. I'm like, well, how did you not do this? They said, well, nobody in my family does this. Nobody
Right.
even was at all interested in this. This is, completely foreign to me. And just growing up with it, I didn't know any different. I thought everybody else is like that too, but apparently I was just really blessed. So
That's awesome.
As we're moving forward here, Nate, I know a lot of people that listen to Ron and the podcast, they're in like the mountains of Pennsylvania. Talk about how different it is where you're from, up in northern New York. Just the atmosphere, the weather.
So we're right on the edge of the Adirondacks. We've actually got some property just inside the Adirondack Park. It's different. We've got a lot of ag properties up here. Where I grew up, it was basically cow country, where I spent the majority of my time. Just like I said, just inside the Adirondacks. Everybody talks about having to sit in traffic on the way to work or school. Our traffic was waiting for the farmer to get the cows across the road. And,
Right.
that was pretty much, if you got there late, they're not gonna speed up for you. They could care less. But that was, it's people think in New York, everybody automatically thinks of the city. They don't realize that that's just just because it's got a huge population, it's a very minute part of the actual topography of the state. We've got a whole lot of other land, and mainly where we hunt, most of it is farmland. Most of it's just big ag properties. Some of them are just small properties with little wood plots in between, and it's nice. You get further up, further north, and you get into the Adirondacks, and I mean, you get into the big woods, and it's a different world in there. And you get a lot of people up there. I've got a friend. He's a retired state trooper. He met these guys. The guy was lost, and he went and he found them. The one guy was right by the truck. The next guy was 100 yards away, and the next guy was 100 yards away from him. And he said, "Well, where are you going?" He's like, "Well, we're not going any further than we can see."
Right.
We're not going into that. And I mean, this guy grew up there, so he was, he's running circles around him. But
Have you ever come down? Have you ever done any hunting in in Pennsylvania at all?
So actually, this year was the first year that I've been doing any hunting, and technically, I was mentoring. I had to get the license to get my son out, but he, one of the guys in our group, has a ton of does on his property. He's like, I need to get these thinned out.
Yeah.
And in New York, you have to be 12 to go out and deer hunt, where in Pennsylvania they have that. They don't have the age limit there, or lower age, and Virginia's the same way. So I was really, really blessed this year that I had a couple good guys that were like, "Hey, if you want to bring your kid down, we'll get him out and see what we can do." So we actually went out to Western Pennsylvania, and we were there for a couple days. It was a lot of fun. We didn't get one, but we saw a lot, and it was definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've never hunted New York. We've hunted, like when I first started, cut my teeth on hunting. We were I hunted a county that borders the Pennsylvania-New York border. And listen, like the way I envision, I visited New York's. I don't go to the city, but I've come up, and we like to go hiking and hit state parks and get the dogs out and that sort of stuff. So the scenic part of Western New York is beautiful. And once you get about, north of the capital in Harrisburg, like everything turns into God's country. And so I imagine it's similar, get into the mountain range, it's a little bit different. So when Chris says we hunt the mountains, we hunt Western PA, and it is up and down, where our cabin is. But where I cut my teeth hunting, like where my dad lives and our family and, where we grew up, we did a lot of like dairy farm, crop damage hunting. One stretch of woods, leads into a bottom, and that neck takes you into the next stretch of woods. And we would run deer on deer drives, all over the county, just pushing them from one neck of woods across the field to the next neck of woods. So I think I can relate to you.
We're very similar to that where I grew up hunting, and we actually have that. One of the properties I grew up hunting, shot my first deer on it, and just fell in love with the place. The hunt club that we're in actually were able to lease that property. We lost it for a few years, but we got it back, which is super exciting. But like if you look at the way that the state's set up, if you go kind of towards the western part, basically from Onondaga County, which is where Syracuse is, and you head west through the Finger Lakes. A friend of mine was telling me that they did a mineral study years ago in that whole section of the state, and the minerals in that section of the state are better than any place else in the country. So if New York wanted to, which they don't, but if they wanted to, this could be a deer mecca. Because if you look, if you go on New York Antler Outdoors on Facebook, we'll have they always post amazing, everybody shoots a deer that you can send it in, they'll post it for you. Some of the deer that are coming out of those counties, like Steuben County and Allegheny County, and I mean, all these counties basically from Syracuse west, these things are just monsters. They're just huge deer, amazing bodies on them, just real thick racks. And it's funny because you can tell the difference after you look at that page for a little bit. You can be like, okay, that's a Western New York deer, that's a Northern New York deer, that's a, right. Because they all have these different characteristics, and a lot of it's just from, I mean, obviously some are genetics, but a lot of it's just from the food that they're eating and just the minerals out there. I mean, obviously with the Finger Lakes, you've got all the wine country and all that, but they can produce some big deer.
Wow. Yeah, I call Ron and his troop of guys the Mountain Yankees, so I guess you're into that too. I'm used to hunting creek bottoms and cornfields, and I know Ron is similar to that, but once you start getting into more rolling hills and that, and across the Mason-Dixon, you're all Yankees to me. So
it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. So yeah. My point, I guess, is just to just circle it around to put a period or a punctuation on it is. I think a lot of like New York and northern Pennsylvania, like it's just acres and acres of woodland, untouched. And like you said, guys just don't want to go too far. If you don't know where you're at, you can get lost pretty quick. Right. But it's beautiful. Like you can get immersed in it.
I think New York State's got about 3.5 million acres of state land that you can go out and get lost in, and it's incredible. There's a lot of people that hunt state land. Like I said, I grew up hunting mainly on the edge of dairy farms, kind of like you were saying there. And some of them were currently being used as dairy farms. Some of them were just, old farms. And I got a buddy who I hunt every day with during the season now. He grew up, all he did was hunt state land around here. So it's just whatever you had the access to. Because he's like, I never had places like that to hunt before. So he said, we just always went to state land. And that's what I learned how to do. So
yeah. You're going to go to where the game is. One of our buddies says, "Look, if your property has fish, you're going to love to fish. If your property's got turkeys, you're going to love to turkey hunt. If you got big bucks, you're going to be a bow hunter." Our properties that we have, just a small couple acres, we butt up against thousands of acres of state game lands here, and so while the hunting. You can walk 50 yards out of our cabin. Like we got a tree stand out behind the outhouse, and we could see deer and you can kill deer from it. I'll go out on the state land a lot of times just because most people won't walk out that far, and you're going to see different deer, when you're willing to go out and get into it. So anyway, Chris, take us on, man.
All right, Nate, tell us about the Woodsman brand and being part of Buckventures and how you got hooked up with all that, dude.
So probably 3 or 4 years ago, my cousin, who lives about 45 minutes away from me, we grew up and hunted together all our lives. He said, "Hey, let's be pro staff for Buckventures." And I'd watched Buckventures for years. I mean, it's been on for, I think this is the 21st, 22nd season. And I said, "Yeah, okay, sure. Like, I'm sure that'll happen." He's like, "No, seriously, just put in for it. They have an application out. You just fill it out, put it in, and see what happens." Like, you're out of your mind. But you know what? Just to prove you wrong that it's not gonna work, I'm gonna put in for it. So I put in, and I didn't hear anything for a couple weeks. And I got a call from a guy named Bill Fox, who's from out west, and he called and we talked for a bit. And I said, "Listen, if you're looking for somebody that's going to shoot you consistently 140-inch deer every year, you got the wrong guy." I'm like, I'm a big buck hunter. I'm not a big buck killer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, if you want somebody that'll shoot a doe for you, loves to be in the woods, loves God and loves his family, I'm your guy, because that's what we do. I don't shoot big bucks. I would love to, but I just don't. And he said, you're what we want. I said, "Hey, perfect." So we got all set for that. And then I had a work conflict. They said, hey, you need to work. And of course, it was the last week. It was that particular week. So I had to call them, had to cancel. I was pretty upset about it. And then the worst part was the week that I was supposed to go off for this training wound up getting canceled anyway. So I didn't have to miss it. So the next couple of years I was doing other things and I couldn't go. And because I got hurt and I've been out, last year I said, hey, I might as well try this again, put in for it, got it again. And basically what it is you go out to Oklahoma. So they're based out of Chandler, Oklahoma, and they have their summit is in Sparks, Oklahoma. So it's about a half an hour or so away from Chandler. And it's at a church camp. And what a lot of people don't realize is you're going to church camp is what it is. It's like a men's weekend away. And it's not just guys that are in it. There's a bunch of ladies that do an amazing job out there, but it's majority of it's going to be guys. And you're literally going to a church camp, like a men's retreat, with guns and bows and all sorts of amazing stuff. Like amazing speakers are going to come in. You're going to get connected with all sorts of different sponsors that we have and all this stuff. So we drove out and we went in, found the place, followed GPS, which was not a great idea because I'm not sure if you've ever driven through Oklahoma, but driving a Volkswagen Passat through the back dirt roads of Oklahoma, I think I lost 3 fillings going through there. And then we found out that there was a paved road coming in from the south end. So noted for next year. But we went in and it was really incredible to see everything that was there. And some of the nicest people I've ever met. You walked in and it was just anybody that had a blue shirt on was there to help you. And, it didn't matter if you'd been there for 10 years or this was your first time there. They treated you like they've known you forever. And anything that you needed, it was very clear. You weren't lost. You weren't getting pushed around. You went in, you found everything you needed. You found your stuff. And then basically you just learned about what Buckventures was all about. And you had church. Like you can watch there's a link that they put out when we do the summit and you can watch it. And I mean, these are some amazing speakers that they have. They'll come in and they just do they lay everything out. Like, this is where we believe, this is where we are. If you don't like it, maybe this isn't for you. We'd love to have you stay, but we're not going to change anything. Jeff Danker is incredible to listen to him. And Academy Sports and Outdoors is a big sponsor. They've been with Buckventures forever, I think. And Jeff has made mention numerous times that if any of the sponsors say, hey, you can't be talking about the Lord like this. At the end of every show, he pulls out his Bible and does what he's called the walk by faith. He'll pull out his Bible on national TV, read a passage and do a 2-3 minute devotional at the end of every show. It's incredible, And he's told everybody, he said, listen, if you want to stay partners with us, we're going to keep doing this. If at any point you tell us that we can't do this, we can't proclaim the name of God on this show, we're not going to be sponsors anymore. God's given us this platform to use.
Right.
It's been going for 20 plus years. So obviously something's going right. People like it. And he said, if you don't like it, there's other people out there that will. So, but so far everything's been going great.
I think that, there's a large majority of, like, even if you're not a strong believer, if you're connected to the outdoors, you're an outdoorsman, a large population of that demographic is God-fearing at a minimum. You know what I mean? Like, you understand creation, appreciation for the creator, etc. And so, I love that. I love that, you got that background, because most of the demographic, and not everybody's that way, I get that, but there's a large demographic that is God-fearing, and there's also a strong demographic that are strong believers,
right?
And don't beat around the bush when it comes to that sort of stuff.
Right.
If you proclaim what you believe, and stand by it.
The really cool thing with Buckventures, the way that it sets, is Buckventures is kind of like the umbrella. And on one side, you've got the Buckventures TV show, where that's basically it's professional hunters that are paid to create a TV show. And then on the other side of that, you have the Woodsman. The Woodsmen are basically what we are. We're the pro staff. You go out, you promote a lot of you promote the vendors, you promote all the sponsors, and you just try to push stuff along. Like, they'll come out and say, hey, CBA is coming out with a new rifle. Let's push this through. And all of our sponsors are incredible. The stuff that we get to use, the stuff that we get to see and test out and play around with at the summit, I mean, you could spend millions of dollars if you went through all the stuff that was
Right.
there. But it's really nice to be able to kind of get a little bit of an inside track on what's coming out and what's working with that. The amazing thing with the Woodsman is is a nonprofit ministry, is basically what it is. So if people donate money to the Woodsman, or they buy, like, they'll do like raffles and that sort of thing, all that money goes to provide hunts for people. Kind of, somebody's having a little trouble with this or having trouble with that, some sort of a, something that they're trying to, help people out with.
Mm-hmm.
They use that money for that, and you can apply for a hunt on their website. It's woodsmanministries.org, and you can apply for a hunt on there. And I mean, these are amazing. It's not like you're going, in somebody's backyard or something tied to a tree. I mean, these are amazing accommodations with great people. And basically, their whole point of this is to share the gospel to others and Jesus through the outdoors. I mean, that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of what the Woodsman is actually about. And It's, like I said, it's been going on for a while. The Woodsman, I want to kind of keep going back to this, but Buckventures brought in a couple of people that weren't professional hunters, and they're like, wow, these ratings worked out pretty good. There might be something here. So they've taken the pro staff, and they allow pro staff to go out, film your hunts, create your own content, submit that at the end of the year. Once you submit all your content, then you send that off to them, and they can take that and they can put it on their show. So where I hunt, I can't really associate myself with shooting a 200-inch deer. Like, right. That's not going to happen. I love watching people do that on TV, but that's not really real to me. Where I'm hunting, if you see a 120-inch deer, that's an amazing day. Like, that's a monster. Looking at most people around the country, I think a lot of people around the country are kind of in that same general area. You're not looking at 170, 180, 200-inch deer every day. So this kind of makes it a little bit more real. So these aren't professional hunters. These are just regular people that have jobs or are retired or whatever, but they love to go out in the woods. You bring a camera, you get some good footage, and you send it in. So
Woodsman Ministries?
Woodsmanministries.org.
Awesome.
Love it. Woodsmanministries.org. Guys, we'll link to it in the episode.
The transition from that, Nate, into just some memorable hunts you've had with your kids, or even through that experience, what's some stuff that stands out to you?
I'd say a couple of my real memorable hunts, just for me. I remember one of them, I didn't even see the deer. I never saw it. I heard it, but I never saw it. And like I said earlier, my dad loved to go out in the woods, and he just wouldn't shoot anything. So I was young. I wanted to go out and bow hunt, and he said, "Hey, I'll take you out." I said, "Okay, perfect." So we go out because I needed somebody to sit there with me. I mean, I was legal and everything, but I just needed somebody to go. And I said I didn't have a clue what I was doing. My grandfather never bow hunted, because bow hunting was just kind of coming in. And this is the late 90s when it was really starting to get big. And I was sitting on one side of the tree on the ground. I mean, I don't think I was on a bucket. Like, I was just, sitting on the ground. He's sitting on the other side. And of course, I'm looking over the field, and there's a valley behind us, and coming up through this canyon, and I got two does come up. They walked 10 yards from him, and then they take off. He was more excited about that than I've seen him excited about just about anything. And he knew he wasn't going to shoot it. He knew I probably wasn't going to shoot it. But just being that close, I mean, we put him in some old camo that we had laying around, and he just thought that was the coolest thing. Obviously, the first time I ever shot a turkey, I was sitting with my grandfather, or same thing, kind of down a little valley overlooking a cornfield, and we had this huge flock of gobblers coming up through there. I had my great grandfather's old Stevens double barrel 20 gauge, and he said, "Pick one out," and grace of God, one fell. I have no clue what I was even aiming at, but I looked up, the gun went off, and something fell down. So I ran up and thinking it's going to run away. Obviously it was dead.
Yeah.
It was, and of course my grandfather always having the dad jokes. We throw him in the back of the truck, and we're driving home. And we actually drove to the church to show our pastor, because our pastor was really good friends, and he's a big hunter too. And we stopped. He's like, hey, you better check, make sure it didn't blow out of the back. I mean, the thing weighed 20 pounds. So it was a good bird, but
good bird.
I'm 12 years old at the time, terrified that my first turkey's going to be laying on the side of the road. So, but yeah, those are, I mean, you always have so much stuff that you remember. And a lot of times it's not the ones that you shoot. It's the one just being out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone out so many times and not, you don't see anything, you don't see what you're looking for, but you see a lot of other stuff. Because if you can kind of take that one thing away, you now have a whole lot more attention and focus that you can put on other things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, that's kind of fun as well. My kids have come out in the woods with us. They've been out ever since they were born, basically. I would go to work and I'd be gone most of the week doing some training stuff. And when I'd come back, I obviously want to get in the woods because on the range that we had deer all over that place. So all I'm seeing is deer all week and I know I can't shoot them. And I mean, I'm just kind of, I get that itch like crazy. So I want to get out in the woods when I get back. But, hey, I should probably be around my wife and kids since I haven't seen them for 5 days. Yeah. So we got to kind of, figure that part out. So we wound up, we've got a lot of Amish in this area. So I actually had them build me a 5x8 shed, put windows in each side, and I built the platform, put it on top, and now I've got an elevated blind. And it cost me almost nothing. And it's still standing today. It was great. But the kids can go out there. You're not stuck in the cold. You can turn the buddy heater on. You can cook over it. You can, make some hot cocoa or hot dogs, which, by the way, hot dogs are very loud and they have a very strong aroma when you're cooking them. So you got to make sure your wind is right for that. But it can work. They sit out there. If they get bored, they play in a video game or something. But you're getting them out there. You're getting that experience. And just to see them react when something happens. When a deer comes out or you shoot one. I shot a doe one night and we had 6-8 inches of snow. I mean, I could see the blood trail from the stand. It was like a massacre. But this was the first one that my son had gotten to track. So I just let him. I mean, the thing wasn't going more than 20 yards, but he got to go
one
down.
to track.
Oh, yeah, I could send you the video. If I could link the video to you, you'd love it. Because, that blood trail was 1.5 feet wide. It was just spraying like crazy. Sierra Match Kings, they just annihilated that thing. But he followed that, and the look on his face when we got up to it, he was just, going on.
That's the trophy.
But yeah, it was great. It was great, and he helps me bring it back. And then this year was probably the biggest excitement was, like I said, he was able to go hunting. We went down to Virginia and he was able to get 2 deer. He got 2 does down there this year. And we got him a CVA rifle. It was got him a real nice CVA rifle for his birthday with a Vortex optic on it, which I don't know if you ever used Vortex, but that stuff's just incredible stuff. And I was always a Remington guy because I grew up right in Remington country. Where I grew up, Remington Arms was in my town. So 90% of that valley was employed at Remington Arms at one point or another. And I was always a Remington guy. And then I shot a CVA and I have transitioned over. I mean, still have them, but I have definitely transitioned over. They're just some of the smoothest guns you can ever shoot. They are just so nice. And you put a Vortex on top of that and they are about as crystal clear as anything you can find. So we got him set up with that. We had him shooting out to 100 yards and he was hitting, quarters at 100 yards with these things. So he was feeling pretty confident. We had a doe come in and I'm trying to record it. And there's 2 trees and the doe, she's standing right in between the 2 trees. And I can see like the stomach and the rear end. He could see just the vitals. He couldn't see the head or the tail. He's like, can I shoot it? Can I shoot it? We're sitting a foot apart, I'm saying, how can he see the vitals when I'm this close and can't? And he said, yeah, I said, I can see it. So, well, if you can see it, we might not get the video, but at least, I'm not going to tell you not to shoot your first deer because I miss it on, on video. So he's like, can I shoot it? I said, go ahead. And before I spit the words out, he already had that gun going on.
He had his mind made up. Yeah.
Initially he was like, I'm only going to shoot a buck. And my buddy's like, we'll see what happens when a doe comes out. Let's just start there and see what happens.
That every year.
Right. So we started tracking it, and it was one of those, this deer ran through some of the thickest, nastiest, we're talking briars and multiflora rows and prickers and you name it. This thing went through. It's a planted pine thicket, and they just cut out the center of it to throw a little food plot in. And this doe ran through some of the thickest, nastiest stuff. I had to take the mic off the camera because it was just shredding the
windsock.
around it.
Yeah.
We finally got up close to it. I could see it because I'm just a little bit taller than him. I could see it, but he still couldn't. So it was one of those, like, I know where we're going, and I know what he's got to do, but he worked his way around it, and he walked almost right up to it before he actually saw it. And when he finally saw it, the expression on his face was just, I mean, it was money, just as happy and as excited as he could possibly be. And that doe meant more to him than a 200-inch buck laying there. Like, that was just the coolest thing in the world.
Awesome.
And yeah, it was.
I like how you you started talking about Dad, the experience of him getting up close and personal with some deer. And I don't know, it's like rewarding. Like, we've talked about this before in other episodes about, like, seeing your hunting partner or the guys you're out with experience success, or seeing them get excited about something. Like, that gives me a charge as much as having success myself, know. And then for you to, I listened to you tell that story about your son and the doe getting into those green briars in the thicket and all that. That's part of the experience. Like, it's healthy for him to, like, get into that stuff at a young age and have to sort of bull through it to get your harvest, because those are the stories. Like, he'll remember that, not just that it's his first deer, but he'll remember going through that green briars and that thicket stuff and the work put into it. Those are where the memories come from.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was just an absolute blast watching him get to do that and see everything. And like I said, we had some amazing friends down there. Like, I mean, they were better than any outfitter I've ever been to. I've only been one, and that was kind of a train wreck. But these guys were awesome. I mean, they set everything up for us. They sat with us. It was youth weekend, so they took their time. He didn't have anybody that he needed to be with. So he said, "Hey, I'll sit with you if you don't mind." I'm like, "Dude, I'd love it." Like, just incredibly he's forgotten more about deer hunting than I'll ever know.
It's awesome.
And just sitting there helping us out. And he called his son. His son came down with a 4-wheeler, picked him up. He brought it back. He cut everything up. We threw the back straps on or the tenderloins on the smoker that night. And I mean, it was, if you cover it with bacon grease, it's one of the best things in the world. I can guarantee
there you go.
Can't beat it.
Hey there, hunting family. It's time to give a shout out to a company that's been keeping our communities moving since 1995. I'm talking about Interstate Garage Doors. For nearly 3 decades, Interstate Garage Doors has been the go-to choice for comprehensive garage door services in South Central PA, as well as the surrounding Hagerstown, Maryland, and Martinsburg, West Virginia areas. And get this, they're not just any company. They're veteran-owned and family-operated, with a proud history of serving both residential and commercial clients. Their professional technicians are the real deal, offering top-notch installations from industry-leading manufacturers and expert repairs for all garage door makes and models. From residential garage doors to overhead doors and openers, Interstate Garage Doors does it all. So whether you're a hardworking contractor building homes or a homeowner looking for service or just needing an upgrade, you can trust Interstate Garage Doors to get the job done right. And hey, they're not just experts in garage doors, they're also experts in giving back to the community, sponsoring podcasts like Tracks and Tackle. Are you ready to experience the Interstate difference for yourself? If so, here's a little something extra for our loyal podcast listeners. Use promo code Tracks and Tackle when you contact Interstate so they know you heard about them here. Just visit igdoors.com today to get an estimate or request service, or give them a call at 717-263-3150. Don't wait. Take the first step towards a smoother, more secure garage today.
Yeah, it reminds me of what one of my boys went out this year, and he's just determined. He's not going to do anything he doesn't want to do. And he said, "I'm killing a big buck this year." And he went out on youth day with my dad. And he passed up. I mean, early morning, 40, 50-yard shots. They have a honey hole. There's a farmer up here, just wants deer dead. My dad's got a blind, and they come to the corner of this pasture. And if you want a deer, it's almost not hunting, my dad says. You can sit there, just
right.
Want a deer. You're going to go kill a deer here. Yeah, 4 or 5 bucks came up to my son in the morning. He didn't shoot any of them. So he calls me at lunchtime. He's with my dad, and he says, "Yeah, I passed him up. I'm trying to shoot this big one." And they had seen a big one. I'll say that. They had seen a big one at a different time. And I said, okay, dude, you do what you want. You have fun. It's your hunt as long as you're having a blast. But remember how much you like tacos and deer steaks and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And he called me later and killed a real pretty 5-point later that day. And he was out in the woods for about an hour, So he said, I remember what you said, Dad. So, but that's what it's about, just having fun. And
Right on.
they get a kick out of it. Probably what you just said. They get a kick out of when I'm making spaghetti or chili, or I made a shepherd's pie tonight that I use their deer meat, the boys' deer meat. They think that's cool.
Yeah. Right on.
So
Nate, one of the things you said about, when you're talking about that thick stuff is, clearing out just an area through the center of it and doing food plots. And I know we we were talking food plots earlier. Why don't you tell us a little bit about creating those hunting areas for success? And if you want to get into that a little bit, I'm sure our audience would love to hear it.
Sure. So like I said, the property that we used to hunt growing up, we finally got that back. Food plots were just kind of coming around when we started. This was back in 2007, 2008. We were kind of getting into it. I had to actually borrowed a tractor, borrowed all the equipment. I didn't have anything at the time. And we found this beautiful spot at the end of a big green field. And it's one of the best places I've ever hunted, because you've got this couple 100-acre big green field, which is usually full of clover. And then on the end of this, it's all apple trees. And then on the end, around the bottom side of that, it's all hardwoods. So it's an amazing spot. And this was all buckblush and multiflora rose and everything. We went in and we pulled out. It took us a week and a half to get this place cleared out. I guess my grandfather was up there. He and I were, he was older at the time, but this guy was just one of the old farmers. Like, you just can't kill him. And he's just stronger than everybody in the gym when you go in there. And we went in, we pulled all these huge rocks out. We did all sorts of stuff with that. So we had a blast doing that. And that's kind of where we started getting into the food plots. I was like, this is pretty nice. Like, I kind of like this. So we finally wound up getting some property, and we've opened up these food plots pretty good. The field that we've got, it's like a 40-acre, it used to be a hay field, and it just all grew up with birch and just some, like, the poplar and all the garbage trees that come up through there. So we went in, and over the years, we'll run like an excavator and go in and we'll clear out a big section of it and then just start planting all this stuff. And it's just so much fun to go out there and do that. I think the prep for the season is almost more fun than the actual hunting part itself, because it's like, well, if I put a stand here and if I do this and I clear this lane or I open this up or I do this or do that, it's all the mind games that goes into it. It's the chess match, Right. So we went in, and there's few things in the world more fun than planting a food plot with a whole bunch of kids and trying to figure out how they're going to do it. And what we're going to do is just a blast. Like, we'll go to the local feed store most of the time and just pick up a 50-pound bag of oats, set it in the center, just let them throw it wherever they want. Because it's, you got to kind of keep moving the bag, because you'll have this huge, very lush, 4 foot by 4 foot square, nothing anywhere else. But we did that for years. We really got into a couple of different ones that we've used a lot is Evolved Harvest. We got into using those, the 7-card stud. I don't know if you've ever used that mix. We kind of got into it on accident. We went in to grab something that was all that was there. So I'm like, well, I need something. And we put it out, and the deer just crushed it. And I put a camera up, and I was getting, 20, 30, 40 pictures a night on a half-acre food plot. And they were just all different deer, and they were just devouring this stuff. So we used a ton of that last year. We did a lot of the National Wild Turkey Federation. You can get a lot of seeds from them. Used a lot of those. And then we've started using some of this stuff it's actually one of our sponsors for Buckventures. And when I first heard about it, I had a lot of people tell me, hey, you need to use this stuff. It's great. And I said, this sounds like kind of like a snake oil salesman. Like,
sure, yeah.
There's no way right. Like, there's no way that this stuff can work like you're telling me that it does. It just can't. So I'm looking at it like it's like a liquid fertilizer, it's something like that. It really, it's not. It's actually like all these micronutrients that go into it. I actually brought some with me here tonight. So it's called Sportsman's Research, and it's a 3-step process. This is the first one. I'm not sure if you can see that. This is basically a seed coat. So this little packet will go through 100 pounds of seed, and you take this, you just mix it on, and people are getting germination in like 4 or 5 days as opposed to weeks. Like this stuff is just popping up like crazy. I've got a lot of friends that have used this. When we did it last year, I couldn't get it in time, so I was getting late on time to get my seeds in. So I didn't use the seed coat. I just used the step 2 and step 3. And looking back, I wish I would have used the seed coat as well. The more that I know about it, basically you get a whole lot of faster germination, and the root system just explodes. So if you're in an area where you're getting a lot of drought, you got a lot of issues like that, the root system gets established so much faster using the seed coat than it does just throwing down the seed on its own. And then once the seeds start popping up and you get your plants starting to grow, then you add you've got a couple different things. This is a foliar spray that you can you mix in, and you can use these next two at the same. You mix them together and then just mix them with water and spray it over. And this is the micronutrient that you mix in with it, and you just spray it on with a backpack sprayer or just a handheld pump sprayer. You don't need to have a big ATV sprayer or anything like that. I mean, my kid went out and put it down because, like I said, I'm still broken. So he was out spraying everything down, having a blast looking at this stuff. And it's all natural stuff. It's not like I always get nervous about what I'm putting on stuff like this. One, I don't want it in my soil because I don't like that because I live here and my well's here and all that. But I also don't want the deer to eat it because then I'm going to eat the deer. I don't want to add more stuff to me. I mean, I'm not really superstitious. I'm just a little stitious. So it's like I don't want to mix all this stuff together and dump it on. When you have to wear a mask and put gloves on to put some of the stuff in the field on your plants, like that doesn't sound good to me that I'm going to be then eating what this stuff is and having this stuff around me. Or
venison's not truly organic.
Right. I'm like, this isn't how this is supposed to be. So like I said, I talked to the Todd Karen, he's the founder of this. Basically, this was developed out west. They found a big area where everything around it was just exploding. Like they just noticed all the plants and everything were just huge around this stuff. And they tried like, well, something's got to be going on. Well, they found this micronutrient and they've developed it. I mean, a lot of the big ag fields and the big farms out west use this stuff like crazy. And then he got thinking, he's like, hey, well, if this works for that, you can, this would be great for food plots. I mean, we got a bunch this year. We're going to put it in the garden because, like I said, it's all natural stuff. It's not any sort of added crazy chemicals that you're throwing on there. And if the garden goes like the food plot went last year, it's going to be incredible because I've never seen things grow this quickly, this fast. From when I put it on, I think we had, maybe half a day of rain in a week. And it went from seeing dirt to nothing but a blanket of green. It was incredible. Like I said, I've never seen anything like it before. And I'm not going to promote anything that doesn't work. Like I try to test everything. I've used a lot of stuff over the years that people are like, oh, this is amazing. And then you try it. It's like, is it though? Like, is it really that good? And this stuff this will beat anybody's expectation. If you go on their website, it's just sportsmansresearch.com. And you go on there and you see what they've got on there. The opening page is going to be like the opening picture is going to be Tony Smotherman, who's one of our CVA guys. He's one of the guys at CVA. If you go to if you went to the Harrisburg show or you went to Nashville or even if you went to the SHOT Show, you just seen Tony out there. And it's a picture of him with 194 and 7/8 inch monster buck laying there. And it all came from this stuff. You can watch, he's got a ton of YouTube pages that you can go through and watch, and it's all him going through and showing how this stuff works. It's just incredible. I mean, because he even like he'll say he planted late, and this was the worst season he's had for rain in years in Iowa. And it's just, you see the pictures of these things, and these people are all over the country. Because with the pro staff for Buckventures, we've got about 300 to 350 people over about 30 different states. So it's not like this only works in New York, this only works in Iowa, or only this will work anywhere. This stuff's it's absolutely incredible. And I know it sounds like I'm really pushing this stuff, but I'm telling you, once you try it, you're going to understand that this stuff it's almost too good to be true, but it actually is true.
Well, that's it. Like, I mean, there's no better, promotion than word of mouth. Right. So it's like somebody that's tried it. Like I'm going to get some just listening to you to put on the garden to see it, how it does on the garden. But, so that's one thing. But, where I hunt now, we're in a lot of rocky soil, and we can get some seed to grow. We're heavy canopy. It's mature big woods. You get a little bit of seed to grow, and it's mowed down before you can, get back out that property to water it or to rake it or anything like that. Like they're mowing it down as fast as it's coming up. So we need to. I'd be interested to see how that product works on like super rocky soil. We've tried to put some apple trees and stuff in there, and they don't make it because the roots can't take because of it's not the best soil to grow in, right? But when you got somebody that's tried something and is willing to hang their hat on it, like you're saying, this stuff works. Always willing to give it a try.
Yeah, like I said, I've tried a lot of stuff over the years, and I mean, I'm not getting paid by them to say this stuff. It's just
right.
I still have 4.5 feet of snow in my yard, or I'd be out planting right now, doing some things like that. But I mean, I don't know if that would count as frost seeding right now. But
yeah.
It's the thought has crossed my mind quite a few times. But
we'll talk about you hit it a little bit, but talk about you get your kids involved and stuff like that. Just how much does that mean to you and to your kids that you can do that? And again, where you live, you're able to do all that.
Having the kids out is just. It's really a lot of fun, because you're out there, you're making the memories, and it's just something that just you and they are doing. We try to keep the video games and everything away for a while. I mean, I get it. If you got young kids, they're going to get bored and they're going to need some sort of, mental stimulation while you're sitting there. You're not just going to sit and stare at the wall or,
there's time and place for that, right?
Right. So, but if you can find a spot, you can go out and do that sort of thing. You're going to be amazed at how quickly they'll really start to pick up on it. Like my oldest, we went out and we used to always sit just in the blinds because we actually wound up building a second blind over a big food plot. 'Cause I had a buddy that would come over and I felt like a jerk sitting in there with the heater on. It's 10 degrees and he's stuck sitting in a tree stand. I kind of felt pretty bad about that. So I'm a very big redneck. I try to do as much stuff on my own as I can. So we went out while we were clearing this property. We took down a bunch of these trees. I've got a little toy sawmill that I've had for 18 years. We milled up all our wood. We built the blind in the garage. So I got the kids helping me build it. They're measuring, they're cutting. I mean, I'm helping them because they were little.
Yep.
But we're getting everything put together. We set it up, and then they get to go out and they can plant this stuff as well. So it's like they kind of come full circle. They've been involved in every part of this. So we're out sitting in these box blinds and we're doing all this sort of stuff. And my son was like, Dad, we do have other stands we can sit in. And I hadn't been seeing a lot that year. I was like, you know what? How about this? You tell me which stand you want to go sit in, and that's where we're going to go. So we got him his harness. Mom wanted to make sure he always had his harness going on, which obviously is a very intelligent thing to do. So we got him a muddy harness, and we threw that on him. And we climbed up in the tree, and I mean, the kid he went out 2 years ago. He went out with me 25 times, and I mean, we're sitting in tree stands, we're sitting in blinds, and he's picking where we're going because, I mean, I look at stuff, maybe they'll come through here, maybe they'll come someplace else. It's kind of a crapshoot unless you've got 17 different cell cameras out there. You know exactly what minute they walk through, and I don't have that.
It's all right place at right time. I mean, you can pattern them, right?
And again, even if you're not, you're still making those memories. Even if you're not seeing, you're not in the right place. You're still having fun. You're still sitting there. You're still experiencing the same thing. And holy cow! Remember we sat out there and we lost feeling in our toes for an hour because it was so cold and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was pretty fun. Seeing them do that. And then, like I said, this year we got to go down to Pennsylvania. And we hunted Derek's farm down in Western PA. And we went out and he had a million deer coming around him. And he was right around the hill from where we were. He said, they've got to be pushing your way. Because they had a big drive going across the road and everybody was pushing all the deer from the neighboring property over to where we were. And he's like, do you think you can make it through the day? Can you do an all day sit? I mean, he's 10. So
it's
I know
tough.
a lot of,
I know
a lot of grown men that they can't do an all day sit. And I said,
right.
What do you think? Do you think we can do this? Well, then Derek kind of sweetened the pot a little bit and he said, hey, since he hasn't shot a buck yet, if he wants to shoot a buck and a buck comes out, because originally it was just shoot a doe for him.
Yeah.
He said, hey, if a buck comes out, I'd love to see him get his first buck. He sat there for 11 hours. We got we got in, it was 12 degrees. He sat there for 11 hours. He made it till 4:30, and then he kind of nodded off for 10, 15 minutes. But then he was right back up and ready to go. So it was impressive to see how far he's come.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Those all day sits help when you're seeing deer too.
Right.
Like you said, like sometimes it doesn't work out and you're making other memories and you can take in other things. But when you're seeing, whether you're hunting deer, you're hunting turkeys or whatever, the hunting goes a lot faster when you're seeing something periodically, right?
Right.
And that helps you keep your butt in the seat too.
Yeah, you get real warm real quick when you see a deer. You forget how cold it is.
We talk about, you'll sit for hours for 15, 30 seconds of fun. And that's what we do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we start to wrap up here, Nate, we don't talk about it too much, but you do work in law enforcement, New York State Trooper. We talked about it a little bit before you came on, but talk about that work-life balance and really how the getting out helps you with all that, buddy.
So I remember when I was growing up, I stopped at this property, the property that I've talked about 3 or 4 different times so far. It was owned by our pastor of the church that I grew up in. He was best friend with my father. He's since moved out of state, but he always let us hunt there. And I don't think we ever paid him. I don't think it was just, hey, use it like it's your own. If you want to put a food plot in, go ahead. You want to build a huge box blind up here, go ahead. Like I did all sorts of stuff there. And I almost you still have the respect that it's somebody else's property, but at the same time, he's just so open to letting us do whatever we, thought was going on. And obviously we're not going to, do anything stupid with that. But I talked to him one time and I'm like, I've been out a lot and I want to be in the woods all the time. Cause I knew there were some big deer there. I got a couple really nice trail cam pictures of some beautiful bucks. And he's like, and I had just gotten married soon after that. And before that. And he said, it's tough because you have to make sure you have that balance. You don't want to be in the woods too much, but you don't want to, not have, time to kind of go and decompress and kind of, get your head right as well. Because then, that can create other problems at home. That can do all sorts of other stuff.
Right. I,
again, am beyond blessed because my wife hunts with me. So she shot her first buck this year. She had a nice 6-point this year. So we've gone out and done all sorts of stuff. She'd rather turkey hunt than deer hunt, but that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. I like that too. But with everything that we deal with on the job, you kind of have to have an outlet somewhere. You talk to anybody that's doing this kind of work, they're going to tell you you've got to have something that you can clear your mind, you can do something else with, and not keep focusing on everything that you're dealing with. We see some of the stuff that people never should ever see, that things that people do to each other, things that people do to themselves, just all sorts of crazy stuff. You deal with people on their worst day, and generally they're not happy to see you when you show up. So it can kind of give a lot, to what you've got going on in your brain. I never wanted to work close to home. When I was in Virginia, I was a trooper down there, and you had to live within 15 air miles of your county. And I didn't like that because that was close. I didn't want to be dealing with my neighbors. I didn't want to be doing any of that, that
right.
sort of thing. So where I was here for the vast majority of my career, I was about 35 minutes away. So that was just about enough time to kind of, take that mental dump and just decompose on the way home and get all that stuff out and then get home and then find something else to do. I mean, there's been countless times I'll try to go in a little early so that by the time I get home, I still have an hour or two of light, grab the kids, go sit in the woods and, see if something comes out. But again, it's just kind of finding that nothing. You get out in the woods and there's no noise, there's no cars, there's no traffic, there's no sirens, there's no people talking or walking by or yelling at you or cussing you out or all the above, and you just get to go and just kind of sit there and just shut up. You sit, listen, and it's amazing. And I'm sure you guys have heard it too. It's amazing how loud leaves are when they fall.
Right.
You're sitting there and it's like, oh, it's a leaf. Okay. But when you've got 8 billion of them coming off the trees at one time, like it's amazing the things that you can hear, the things that you can experience. And when you're looking and listening to that, you're not thinking about what you just did, 2 hours ago or whatever. So trying to have that good balance. I mean, obviously you can't spend all your time out there because you still have to do other things. But like I said, we've always tried to keep it as good as we can like that and try to get everybody involved with it, get the kids out. like I said, this year, both my kids and my wife and I were all in the same stand that we built, which is the one that she shot her deer out of this year. So she got her first buck. Everybody was there. And I mean, these two kids were about as excited as they could be because they just saw mom shoot her first deer, or shoot her first buck, I should say.
Right.
And it's just like they were just losing their mind, all sorts of excited. They tracked it for her and they were dragging it out of the woods. And I mean, these kids are just beyond excited, grinning from ear to ear, having a blast. So like I said, we try to, separate. You've got work life and then you've got home life. So you try to separate those two so that you can not bring what you're dealing with every day at work back home, because that stuff doesn't need to be here.
Yeah.
One of the things that, early on in our marriage, my wife, she grew up in a family that they weren't sportsmen or outdoorsmen. She doesn't hunt, very blessed that she lets me spend as much time, because I'm so passionate about this. We were just actually taking a road trip over the weekend, like a 2-hour trip. And she's like, you know what, you've been talking about hunting for the last 2 hours. Like, why don't we start talking about something different? And so like, she's got to reel me in every once in a while, but one of the things that when we first got married, our pastor, taught us was, man carries fire, and that fire can warm the home and bring shelter and comfort and help the family to survive, but it can also burn, so when you and hurt and harm. And so we need to understand that we carry that fire when we come home from work. And we need to be able to have it under control, knowing that it's good for the family, for the man to come home and carry that fire to provide and protect. But if it's out of control, it can be harmful to the family. And so that's what I hear you saying, Nate, whenever you're, explaining about that work-life balance. It's really important, and a message we can all take to heart.
Awesome. So tell us where we can find you, man. If you want people to find your brand and the Woodsman and Buckventures, where can we find you at, dude?
So I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. It's Nate the Woodsman on Facebook. There's a couple different ones. There's actually one of me. The picture on it is going to be black and white, and it's going to be me getting a tattoo on the inside of my left bicep, which is kind of fun. I know you don't have any tattoos, Chris. I know. We talked about that before. And then it's Nate the Woodsman on Instagram as well. So a lot of the same content, but we try to push out a bunch of stuff. And like I said, we get a lot of the kids stuff, showing all the kids getting involved in this, and just watching them, really just take over and just having a blast with this stuff. The sponsors we have for the Woodsman and for Buckventures are just amazing. I mean, you've got Vortex, Hoyt, Realtree, CVA, Dead Downwind, GSM Outdoors, Academy Sports, Tanks, Bloodsport Arrows, Hawk Muddy, Psych. I mean, just the list goes on and on. I'm sure I've missed about 2/3 of them. They're incredible. The great thing, if anybody's actually interested in becoming a pro staff member for Buckventures, they're actually in their pro staff application right now. So they just released that a few weeks ago. So it's bvotv.com. Just go on there, fill out the application, and put your application in. That somebody will get in touch with you, and then you can go from there. Like I said, it's a great way to get connected with people from all across the country. I mean, we were out there for 2 days, and we've got people that we talk to. I mean, I talk to one guy every day, and it's like we grew up together. We've known each other forever, and I talked to him for 15 minutes in Oklahoma, and we actually have matching tattoos now. So it's kind of crazy how far we've come. So
awesome, man.
Yeah, right on, man. I appreciate you, coming on and sharing. It's been a great interview. We always looking for guests that, have something to share, and you did not disappoint, Nate. I really appreciate you carving out the time to do this with us tonight.
I appreciate you having me. It's been fun.
It's been a blast.
Taking a break from shoveling snow to talk to us. That's always fun, right?
Yeah, I try not to do that. That's why you have kids.
Yeah.
That's right, man. When it comes to dragging deer and shoveling snow, it's good to have help.
That's right.
Awesome.
Well, hunting family, we appreciate you always. As we wrap up, we just want to say thank you to the audience. Nate has come on here, and now he's part of the family as well. So We'll link to all in the description of the episode. We'll link to all the different things that we talked about, and so you can look him up, follow him, and drop us a comment, drop us a like. You can get us at Tracks and Tackle. You can find us at Menser Outdoors. You can find us at 3B_outdoors_club. And as always, a shout out to Interstate Garage Doors for sponsoring the show. We appreciate you. If you need help with garage door or service or sales, give them a call at igdoors.com. All right, Nate, thanks for joining us tonight. Chris, take it easy the rest of the week. And the rest of the hunting family, we just always want to sign off. Nature is our playground. Get outdoors and stay wild.
See you guys.